in that sense, we're making a lot of focus, and we're seeing a lot of that from the customers, that they are requesting more sophisticated models, that they are more able to customize, and also that they are more able to connect between each other.
Hey gang, it's Thursday, August 19th. Guido, Matteo, and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, a eMarketer podcast made possible by VTEX. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by head of e-commerce, Samsung Electronics Argentina, one of VTEX's clients. It's Guido Shama.
Hello, Marcus. How are you doing? How's everyone doing?
Hello, sir. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're also joined by our senior analyst for Latin America and Spain here at Insider Intelligence. It's Matteo Ceurvels.
Hey, Marcus. Great to be back.
Hello, absolutely. So, gents, thanks for hanging out with me today. Today's fact, before we start the episode: ants refuse medical assistance when they know they are mortally wounded. It's very noble. I wouldn't refuse it. I'd take it. To avoid wasting the colony's resources, seriously injured ants will refuse the help of paramedic ants. Didn't know that was a thing. That would usually try to help them. As National Geographic explains, the dying ants refuse to cooperate, flailing their legs around when probed or picked up, forcing their helpers to abandon them. I'd be the worst ant ever. If I was mortally wounded, I'd still be kicking other ants out of hospital beds, screaming, "Save me first." That's why I'm not an ant. Plenty of other reasons too. Today's real topic: how consumers are buying electronics differently and what that means for Omnichannel. All right, so today we are talking about Samsung and how the pandemic has affected how they do business and how their customers buy from them. And we're joined by Guido, as I mentioned, as well as Matteo, to give us some regional context as well. Guido, let's start. We talked about your job title, Head of E-commerce, Samsung Electronics Argentina. But do you want to give us a quick snapshot of what your job is? What are you trying to do for and at the company?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation and your question. First of all, what I would like to say, e-commerce is covering, in Samsung's vision, three main pillars. First is how to optimize and enhance Samsung product presence on retailers and carriers.com and try to make co-marketing and exhibitions, shop-in-shop programs in order to be able to grant the customers the same customer experience and the same product specs as if they were navigating in Samsung.com. Second key pillar, and one of the crucial ones in this world, is pure players and marketplaces. We maybe have the chance to deep dive on that further in the conversation. And finally, making our direct-to-consumer platform grow. This pillar is very, very important for us, not only specifically for the revenue value it generates, but also for the strategical value, not only in terms of sellout platforms, such as online trade-in, Omnichannel, and so on, but also because of the skills we are able to develop in all of our team. Remember always that Samsung, by heritage, traditionally, was a manufacturing company. So in the last couple of years, all the company globally has went through the transition from being a manufacturing company to a direct-to-consumer company in some points. So it is also very important how we're able to develop skills and new adaptive sellout platform in our direct channel that we maybe then cascade to the indirect channel, to the pure players and to the retailers, for them to have more tools to sell Samsung products and make easier and better solutions for end customers themselves.
Mm-hmm. How's the D2C strategy, how's that unfolding for you guys?
Well, actually, we have, from Argentina's and Samsung perspective, we have, of course, this maybe sound a repetition and a common phrase, but first, it's actually customer-centric, trying to find all the best way to deliver the maximum value possible to the customer to make his purchase easy, not only in terms of logistics and in terms of finding all the specs they require of the products, but also to grant them the correct experience all through the customer experience and making the digital marketing engagement channels the most accurate possible so that you can receive only the content that you are interested in. So, for example, making it possible that if you're about to move to a new place, you may get the right advertising according to your credit profile and the needs you may have, if you have a family or not. And for example, showing you this or that refrigerator, showing you this or that TV, so that when you get any contact from Samsung, you get the right one, the one that may be useful to you and not only what we want to sell you.
Yeah. How have you found consumers are buying electronics differently today than, say, pre-pandemic?
Well, actually, I think that this happened to all of us. 2020 changed not only the kind of work we do in e-commerce and the volume of the channel itself, but it also changed our way of living as individuals. We began living much more time in our home. We began blending the work and living spaces and timings all together. So making the home space more comfortable and better equipped was a priority last year, not only for consumer electronics, but maybe for do-it-yourself activities, decoration, and so on. So in that sense, we see that there was a huge boom for home appliances. In that sense, we're making a lot of focus, and we're seeing a lot of that from the customers, that they are requesting more sophisticated models, that they are more able to customize, and also that they are more able to connect between each other. There's a really nice product that we have been seeing a lot of good feedback by the customers, that is the Family Hub refrigerator, which is a refrigerator which has full connectivity. You can have the family photograph, let's say, displayed all along in the refrigerator. But not only that, you can configure the refrigerator to show you what's in the inner part and see it from your cell phone or tablet when you're in the supermarket to check whether if you need, milk, butter, water, or whatever. So this kind also with TVs and this kind of integrated multi-device experience are gaining a lot of relevance, same as in exercising, let's say. A great increase in smartwatches, wireless headphones, to be able to make a better health tracking, vitals, when running, when doing exercise at home. So I think it actually changed a lot, but not only in terms of consumer trends, but also in the way they want to engage the channel and what they expect from the channel in terms of customer service and speed in the delivery or omni-channel pickup services.
Before we move on to omnichannel, Matteo, any other observations from you in terms of how the Argentinian customers changed over the last 18 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think Guido has summed it up really well. It's just, I believe with the prolonged quarantines and prolonged coronavirus measures, it's that being at home, it really propelled the online channel. I mean, Argentina was the fastest growing e-commerce market worldwide last year, and the only market that we track among the, I believe, 30 plus countries that actually registered triple digit growth in spite of inflation too. So it was really a key example of how these lockdown measures really pushed e-commerce forward at an accelerating rate and in continuing to do so into this year, despite all of the economic challenges that the country faces, be it inflation, currency issues, and what have you. It's a really noteworthy trend that came out, and it's exciting to see how it will continue to grow despite all the issues surrounding the virus and vaccination rates, et cetera, as of late.
Yeah. Guido, I want one of those fridges because I buy the same 4 things from the grocery store every time, and I still can't remember. I always forget one of them, which is insane. Really, you mentioned omnichannel. Let's talk about that for a second. So how is Samsung thinking through its omnichannel strategy, thinking about marketing and also operations?
Well, in terms of marketing and customer experience, for us, it's very important that Samsung experience is consistent. And that is specifically applied better to the direct-to-consumer channel. Why is this? Right now, we have a global, let's say, trend or a global challenge, which is whether if brands should choose for pure players or they should choose for brands.com, let's say. There's a huge debate in that arena. And I think that the consumer that wants to buy at the brand.com, specifically in Samsung.com, they want to have this true, unique, and tailor-made experience with the brand. They do not want just to have the better price or get the product because at the end, the product will be the same no matter where you buy it, but they want a very specific, a unique kind of experience. So first point would be to integrate and have the same value proposition, no matter if a person goes to a Samsung Electronics stores in the physical, in the brick and mortar, let's say, and in the online. Same tone of voice, same communication that in performance marketing, and full database integration between both ends. That would be the first part in terms of omnichannel marketing. And in terms of omnichannel, let's say, operation, we have a very clear roadmap and a very clear approach to it. First would be that everybody here understands that brick and mortar and online differentiation, it's only at our mind. It does not exist in the consumer mind. People want to have a clear and consistent experience no matter the touch point. So for example, I don't know, in your everyday life, maybe 3 years ago, maybe you bought something at a brand.com, then you wanted to change it in a brick and mortar store, and they told you, no, this was bought in the online, I can change that for you. So that kind of experiences on all the similar ones are completely unacceptable from our point of view. It should be fully integrated, not only when you want to sell something, but also afterwards.
Yeah.
So that would be the first part. Second part of it would be use all in our power to make the channel relation, the brick and mortar and online, so fluid that people can get the product they want the faster they can at the cheaper price. So between all the layers of value-added services that we're adding, we have first store pickup, click and collect, so that people, specifically in the interior of the country, in the deeper zones, Argentina is a very centralized in Buenos Aires country. So if you're in the other end of the country and you want to get your product, without omnichannel, we may took up to 5 business days to make the product travel to your home in the interior, in the deep interior. Now, with the click and collect, of course, you get your product in business, I don't know, 4 to 8 business hours, because it is already there in your closest Samsung stores. That's the first part. But it's not only a matter of speed and timing to the customer, it's also a matter of cost saving, where we are saving up to 80% in deliveries, given this omnichannel connection. So this would be like the hidden end, let's say, of omnichannel. It's not only based on the great value it gives to the customer, but also because of the operation efficiency generated by that. And furthermore, one next step we're going for is the ship from store. We are selecting 10 Samsung stores with operational capacity to begin delivering, consolidating products and delivering to the consumer home, not only limiting to click and collect, but also being like a mini operational hubs to prepare the packages and delivering them with local last milers, so that for you don't get to choose if you want to be delivered from the store or from the warehouse. You just get it delivered in one day instead of 5, and you don't get the information of where it is being delivered from. You just get it faster.
Right. Matteo, what does omnichannel mean to the Argentinian customer in your eyes? Where are Argentinians shopping and buying things?
Definitely. I mean, even with the surge of e-commerce, in-store shopping or physical goods physical shopping is still very relevant. I think about maybe still about over 85, 90% of sales are done in store. But similar to what Guido had mentioned, it's omnichannel. It doesn't really necessarily, the consumer doesn't think that, this is the brand's online channel, this is the brand's offline channel. It's the brand in general. So consumers are very cognizant of the fact that they demand and they expect a seamless experience, no matter if they're in store researching something and then go to buy it online, if they're at home and choose to pick it up in the store, or whatever the various wide variety of combinations may be. It's the omnichannel is, I think as we continue to see e-commerce emerge as a growing channel of choice among consumers, that's going to be even more important for brands to respond and create these seamless experiences, because those that are able to and are able to avoid these customer or these pitfalls of customer experience are going to suffer the negative consequences of consumer backlash, versus those that have invested and taken the time to think out all the different touch points of the consumer journey, be it online or offline, are really going to triumph in the months and years ahead. So the consumer is very ambivalent to what the channel it is. It's just they want a good experience across all touch points.
Right. Guido, what challenges do Samsung expect, or does Samsung expect to face over the next 6 to 12 months, say?
Well, actually, I think that there are two main challenges apart from the omni-channel ecosystem growth. I think that on the first hand, we need to be very permeable, let's say, and be really strategical in how we can engage the customers in more sophisticated and social ways. I think that you have all seen in Asia the boom of live commerce and social commerce. So we are really looking at that kind of initiative with lots of interest and trying to study and try and learn from the Argentinian consumer on how they want to engage this kind of new formats. We are doing our first steps in live commerce initiatives. We have done 5 this year and learning new insights edition after edition. So we're getting better, but still a long way to go in that arena. But I think that it's almost crystal clear that customers want to engage not only transactional but with more content, meaningful manner. So that would be a good challenge to take into account. And I would add not only omni-channel as a challenge, but also multi-channel. How you can integrate back and forth with marketplaces from a same platform, taking our VTEX platform as the main integrating hub, maybe integrating with maybe someday other categories, or maybe integrating forward with marketplaces, not the traditional ones, but banking catalogs, which are really growing here in Argentina. The bank companies offer curated marketplaces with special installment conditions. So we are looking forward and already working in our integration with the main ones in Argentina. So, and taking that one step further, I really believe that same as in the case of omnichannel, we need to think, this may not be 6 to 12 months as you asked, Marcus, but maybe thinking more in the future, maybe we should think on how we can develop business models in which stock ownership is no longer an issue. So maybe someone that buys at a retailer gets their order fulfilled by Samsung.com, or the other way around. Someone that buys at Samsung.com can get their order fulfilled by a retailer. So not only physical and digital barriers blend and disappear, but also the stock ownership. I think it should begin to be less relevant, and the main criteria should be who can fulfill the order better to the customer, and who does the customer wants to engage with in the case of the experience. So I think that that's maybe a more 2 to 5 years challenge, but I think that it will eventually happen.
Right. Well, unfortunately, that's where we have to leave the lead story. I want to thank my guests. Thank you so much, Guido, for taking the time to hang out with us today.
No, actually, I want to thank you. It was a very nice conversation, and we can repeat it and go deep diver whenever you want. Thank you for the space.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you to Matteo.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And Guido, I'll definitely take you up on that offer.
It's time now for In Other News, but first a quick word from our sponsor, VTEX. Retail's next competitive threat may come from a business model or channel that didn't even exist a few months ago. This modern dynamic requires companies to adapt quickly, pivoting business seemingly overnight, something traditional commerce platforms just can't support. There's a new enterprise commerce platform on the rise, one that's fast, flexible, and doesn't require 9 months and $1 million to get up and running. Go to vtex.com/eMarketer to learn more. All right, folks, we are back today. In other news, we are joined by one of our directors of forecasting. It's Oscar Orozco.
Hi, Marcus. Happy to be here.
Hey, chap. Thanks for hanging out. Today, in other news, is YouTube underwhelming? ESPN Plus doubles down on major sports rights, and DAZN looks to shake up TV sport. Story 1. Is YouTube a success? Asks Shira Overday of the New York Times. Or is it underwhelming? Ms. Overday is asking whether YouTube has fulfilled its financial potential. The digital video giant kept $11 billion from selling ads last year. That's not great. Number 1, Viacom CBS nearly made as much. Number 2, Twitter makes double the ad sales on average from its users compared to YouTube. And number 3, YouTube's cut of ad revenue is also less than half the size of Netflix's yearly revenue. That excludes YouTube's subscription money. Ms. Overday admits that because of YouTube's revenue sharing and other monetization options, it's likely paid out more income to people online than anyone else. However, YouTube does make a lot of money for itself and creators, and revenue is growing, but the numbers remain small relative to its size and influence. Oscar, how do you view YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some truth to the article. The question always is, though, is Google fine with YouTube's performance? And the answer is most definitely yes. But there's definitely some truth, as I mentioned. I think it's related to a few things. There's way too much inventory, too many videos who don't monetize. And the ad loads, it's definitely, they're limited, since in theory, they should be substantially much lower than what viewers see like on traditional paid TV. So that's also limiting, revenues in some ways. And also think about it. Advertisers go to Google and they would much rather spend on Google search products. So YouTube is kind of seen as a lesser product in that respect. It's more costly, less efficient, and so that provides lower ROI. And also the audience on YouTube is seen as less willing or ready to act on an ad. So the performance marketing campaigns that we typically see are just not as common on YouTube specifically. So again, they'll shift those dollars more to search. So there's definitely some truth to the article, but again, it comes back to whether Google is fine with YouTube's performance, and the answer is likely yes. No one said making money on the internet is easy, and the article sort of implies that it should be, but that's not the case. There's a lot of millions of mouths to feed on YouTube as well. And so, YouTube might not be the easiest way to make money, although it is definitely one of the premier ways that content creators do go to make money.
Yeah, a lot of nuance and context that you provided there. Yeah, it doesn't seem like YouTube is making as much money as it should, given the fact that they poured in $11 billion, or only, you could argue, $11 billion is the money that they kept from selling ads last year, versus the fact that a quarter of people, 25% of people on the planet watch YouTube once a month, and half of all internet users. So a huge audience, and you could argue maybe they're not making as much as they should do given the size of that audience. Story 2. ESPN Plus is doubling down on major rights deals to become America's biggest sports streamer, writes Molly Cahillane of Adweek. Number 1, owner Disney signed a deal with the NHL to include its 1,000 plus out-of-market games exclusively on the platform. ABC, owned by Disney, also has rights to 4 of the next 7 Stanley Cup finals. Number 2, Disney extended MLB rights to ESPN Plus in a 7-year deal to bring 30 exclusive regular season games to ESPN. And number 3, Disney signed an NFL deal to allow all ABC and ESPN games to be simulcast on ESPN Plus. Oscar, do you expect ESPN Plus's strategy to pay off?
I think betting on exclusivity is the way to go. I'm extremely bullish on ESPN Plus. We actually have our own forecast, and we estimate that there are about 25 million viewers, and it'll grow to almost 46 million by 2025. That's about 13% of the population. There's a ton of room for growth there, but I think betting on exclusivity is the right way to go. They're essentially providing viewers and fans of different leagues with content that they cannot get anywhere else. And so it's not about necessarily only betting on the big leagues like MLB and NFL, but on smaller things like cricket and, the Italian soccer league. And I think that's going to work for them in the long term. Also, what they have is very deep pockets from Disney, and I think that the bundled package, which provides Hulu and Disney Plus for just $13, really, if you think about it, it's a very good deal, and I think that there's so much more room for that price to be increased and for it to be justified in some ways. Things like Netflix and HBO Max are more expensive, so I think that it's the right way to go. I think that their line, which is other people are streaming sports and we have a sports streaming service, is great. It's gold. Mm-hmm. Argentina. And so I do think that we'll continue to see very strong growth in the coming years because it's just really the only platform that's providing all these different types of sports programming for viewers that we currently see here in the US.
Yeah, they reported 14 million subscribers this spring. As you mentioned, Oscar, we expect there to be 25 million ESPN Plus viewers this year. That would be 10% of the live sports viewing audience. 25 million, as I said, this year, growing to 35 million in 2 years' time. Story 3, streaming service DAZN looks to shake up TV sport, writes BBC business reporter Jonathan Josephs. The company recently told the BBC it's looking to become a sports destination platform featuring wagering, betting, fantasy, and commerce. Oscar, do you think streaming platforms will become betting and fantasy sports hubs?
I do think it's a brilliant idea. It's nothing I had heard of before. You know, just seeing recent news on different sports organizations here in the U.S. adding sports books to their home stadiums. So the Arizona Cardinals reached an agreement with BetMGM, so that's going to open up in 2022. The Capital One Arena and Nationals Park, which are in D.C., have sports books. The Pittsburgh Penguins announced a partnership to have a sports book in their own arena. So I think increasingly there's this connection with sports viewing and fantasy and betting, and to have all of that on one platform is a very unique proposition. So I do think that's extremely interesting. With DAZN, though, they're expanding internationally very quickly. I'm not sure that that's the best play for them, but I think if they can focus on just this unique proposition and maybe slow down growth a bit, just focus on doing this the proper way, it really could potentially work in the long term.
Yeah, you talked about international expansion, 15 million worldwide subscribers as of right now. That's all we've got time for this episode. Oscar, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thanks for having me, Marcus.
Of course, mate. Thank you to Guido and Matteo, who joined us for the first half of the show. Thanks so much to Victoria, who edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers weekly listen, the eMarketer podcast made possible by VTEX.